people are discovering this beautiful world, which is aided by the vagus nerve. So when we just focus on the clitoris penis, which the characteristics of that orgasm, of that nerve, that pudendal nerve, is fast stimulation, whether it's a vibrator or guys on the, rapid, shallow breathing, holding at the end, clenching, yeah, it's a nice orgasm. But the vagus nerve is the opposite orgasm. The vagus nerve, you have to relax and breathe. So that's really new.
Oh my goodness, Deborah, I'm so happy that you're here and we're here together. So welcome. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. This is great to be here. I look forward to it.
I know. I have literally been wanting to have this conversation since probably the time I met you, which when we were offline and I was sharing, it turned out it was 2008 when you did one of your fabulous workshops at a now non-existent store in Los Angeles that was called Coco de Mer.
Yeah.
And I was just enamored, in awe, and so grateful that you were on the planet teaching what you teach. So again, advance thanks.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to just dive in.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And
well, that was 12 years ago.
I know.
Amazing.
Isn't that amazing?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I was thinking about, certainly in my lifetime, because I know you have been involved in your work since the early 80s, correct?
Right.
Okay. And I know, I learned, and as I've been exploring my sexuality just as a woman throughout the course of, my almost 5 decades on the planet now, right?
Yeah.
And so the G-spot came, later in life. Well, I mean, it comes whenever it comes to women. But it was in my 30s after I had left a marriage. Mm-hmm. And I was deeply committed to my own process of discovering my G-spot. And I think that's also when I learned about you and your work. Mm-hmm. So let's just start and talk about what the heck is the G-spot, and why is it important for women to even understand, get to know their G-spots?
Yeah, I was more interested in your story there. What did you learn when you were starting to wake up and wanting to know about your G-spot? What were you learning?
I mean, I'm happy to share all about that at any point, as the listeners know, because I'm an open book. But in brief, the experience I had, and it's actually a chapter in a book that is going to be coming out, was I found God. I mean, it was like no joke. I found and had a very intense, profound, gorgeous experience of connecting with the universe. Mm-hmm. Everyone's got their own word or way of
sure
about that. Right. And that's what happened for me. It took the process also took, which I really am committed to having a part of this conversation, is the process it took actually to get to a space of being open and available enough to experience that. There were layers of trauma and pain and heartache that were sussed through to eventually find that freedom. So that's in brief about my experience.
Oh, great, Deborah. Did you have that during the orgasm?
Yeah, it was when I had the G-spot orgasm that I literally, there was a light. There was it was literally, the ceiling opened up. There was lights. It was like a a spiritual disco of sorts.
Mm. Oh my God, that's so.
Yeah, it was life altering.
Were you alone or by yourself?
I
I'm
was
sorry, were you alone or were you with a partner?
Yeah, no, I was alone, and I was using one of the things I know you recommend, which is a glass G-spot dildo, which still to this day remains one of my all-time favorite toys.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
So,
And I'm gonna.
so with
You
that,
had the right toy, Deborah. All
yeah.
right. With that, you want me to.
Yeah, like, so what, I would love for you to share with our listeners. I mean, you have so much experience and you've worked with so many people over the years. What
Mhm.
exactly, let's just start with the basics. What exactly is the G spot and why should we care?
The G spot is a female prostate. All women have one, just like all men do. And female ejaculate is prostatic fluid. Therefore, all women can ejaculate if you want to. So, why we should care is because in the Victorian age, Alexander Skene, a gynecologist, told us that yes, there's a female prostate, but it's vestigial. What does that mean? It means dried up and not functioning. Okay, so being a feminist, I studied at the University of Minnesota women's studies back in the early 80s. And what we learned in women's studies is the accomplishments and contributions of women in every aspect of life. And we also we had to learn about this because women's contributions and life was diminished. Okay, it was diminished down to what we have here with the female prostate, body parts that are not comparable to the males whose prostate works, but the females doesn't. This is a classic case of feminism.
So so classic case of repressing women and women's
Mhm.
power and pleasure. Is that what it is?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And seeing their body, their minds, their soul, the size of their head, in the Victorian era as less than the males.
Hmm.
So the female prostate is really kind of left over from about 2 centuries ago, but nonetheless, Whipple and Perry, who wrote the famous book, The G-Spot in 1982, have a whole chapter on female ejaculation, but they could not call it the female prostate for fear that their work would be ostracized. And in fact, they named their book The G-Spot after a urologist from the 1930s, Dr. Grafenberg, who wrote about and dissected the female prostate and whose work was ostracized. So you see, this tradition has just been following us along for the whole last century. And it ended in the year 1999 with the publication of Dr. Milan Zavicek's very important work, which was a 20-year study of the cellular structure of the female prostate. And this is what he says on the cover: the fully functioning female prostate, from vestigial skeins, ducts and glands, to a woman's fully functional female prostate. So
And
there you have it.
so this was study saying, hey, by the way, this actually is a gland. It's a prostatic gland and it functions and it has a purpose for women's pleasure. Yes.
Yes, and for reproduction.
Say more, but I'm unfamiliar with how it is related to
Mm-hmm.
reproduction.
Mm-hmm. Prostates, both male and female, have two functions: one, production of hormones, and two, production of prostatic fluid. It is a secretion gland, the prostate. And when you see the cellular pictures from Dr. Zavicek's books, you see this watery, this is just a watery organ. It's water everywhere. And it's important for reproduction because, as we know, in the male, the prostatic fluid joins the testes, and that's the semen. And it's the prostatic fluid that has the nourishment and the protection for the sperm as they find their way to the egg.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the prostate is alkaline, the vagina is more acidic, so it protects the sperm that way. And it has nutrients and the food really for the sperm on their journey.
Mm-hmm. On their journey to make humans.
That's right.
And so for women and women's prostatic fluid, how is that beneficial for reproduction?
Same.
Lubrication and keeping an environment that's a good host for the sperm?
Mostly that, not so much lubrication. It's to feed and nourish the sperm.
Okay.
You know, we hear a lot of old myths that I don't repeat about the nasty, harsh environment of the vagina, and the little sperms kind of have to beat their way through and, you know, to the egg, and only one will make it. You know, it's the hero's journey.
Right.
It's like, yeah, but guess what? The vagina is not a hostile space. You know, it has its own ejaculate full of the alkaline and nourishing fluid, because, as we know, as mothers, do we not support our babies?
Right.
Do we not support?
Yes.
Okay, so this is just another myth from the Victorian era that is dying now.
Thank goodness, because the vagina is a happy place.
Absolutely. Beautiful place.
Yes, it's a beautiful, beautiful place. And I am a big fan and a huge advocate of it and for it. Which, you know, which reminds me of, have you ever seen the play, The Vagina Monologues?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so I love, of course, the play, Eve Ensler. I'm a huge advocate of V-Day, the organization to end violence against women and girls. And I got to produce the play 3 times, which was very exciting as a wonderful big fundraiser here in Los Angeles. But there's that one monologue, right, called The Flood.
That's right.
And it is so touching and it's so beautiful. And for those listeners who've never read the play or seen it, please do at some point when you have the opportunity. But The Flood is about this older woman who's, I mean, in her 70s, I think it's written, in her late 70s, maybe even early 80s. And she talks about this experience she had with this boy when she was very young, and she didn't know what was happening to her, but there was all this liquid and he shamed her for it. They were in his new car, and she, as she said, closed up shop. It was like a damp basement. You just don't go down there anymore.
No, it's very true. I'm familiar with this story, and I used to tell it in my lectures. You know, it's like when she leaned over and got the good night kiss as she was getting out of the car, right? She was so excited and open, you know, that she just flood all over the beautiful leather seats of his car, right? Yes. And yes, she was mortified beyond belief, mortified, because women did not know about female ejaculation. And so she thought, of course, and so did he, think it was urine. And it's not.
Right. It's, and so I would love to, you know, again, just unpack and open up, first let's just talk about the shame around female ejaculation and what has, because you've worked with thousands of women over the years, I'm gathering at this point, and probably helped all of them to overcome some, if not a tremendous amount of shame around this, not only the idea, but the experience of female ejaculation.
When I first started, like 2004, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of women who ejaculated and they didn't know what it was. I mean, some got divorces. He couldn't live with a woman who was peeing in bed. So, I mean, yeah, this is a problem. It's less and less so now because of the, more public awareness about female ejaculation. So things have changed dramatically, which is great. So no, I don't deal with so much shame anymore. I really don't. I'm sure it's out there, but the people who come to see my lectures, the women who attend my workshops, they are on a sexual journey. They're seekers and they want to learn more about their sexuality and improve, not just their pleasure, but really their connection with their erotic body on a deeper level than just pleasure.
Yes.
So they usually have worked through their level of shame. But I still have in the workshops when the ladies are getting a circle and it's time for them to see your G-spot, because you can see it. And now and then it's very difficult for women to even look at their vagina.
Yes.
Much less try to see, what else is in there. It's like a veil.
I'm wildly surprised still to this day how many women have not looked at their vulvas, right? Or have any idea what's happening in this area that, sitting on every day.
Yeah, well, in the general population, for sure.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I was so excited to even host this podcast, is really to help to, again, lift the veil and alleviate as much shame as possible for people around talking about sexuality. And then hopefully that opens a door where, people are excited to explore their sexuality and their own bodies. So the G-spot, I
want to say something, please.
Sure.
Or butt in here. Talking in public is the first step. And that's why I give this sex education lecture and have since 2004 with the PowerPoint and a dress. It wasn't a hubba dress. I went out like a Capricorn businesswoman, right? To show the legitimacy of adult sex education. There are so much there that we don't know about, that we don't talk about. And it is actually, some people will come to this public lecture shaking so bad they can barely walk through the door. This is the depth of fear. I wouldn't call it shame. Yeah, there's shame, but there's bald-faced fear around talking about sexuality, especially in public with others. And so to simply come out to a public lecture, to hear me talk about sexuality, to be with others in the room and hear a few stories and actually sometimes get a discussion going, people walk out so happy. They are like truly liberated.
Yes. I agreed. Absolutely. And it's, I think anything, that holds us back from freedom, right, is something that has us in shackles. And of course, sex and sexuality is a big one. Is a big one. So let's go back to the G-spot, and would love for you to just for our listeners, because again, some people probably still have not looked at their vulvas or their vaginas. We do have a lot of male listeners as well, and I'm sure they're interested to know, okay, how can I help my lover find it? What are people looking for? What touch wise, sensation wise?
Well, they're looking for the elusive spot, that some women have and some don't. And only the really great guy, just one of a few, is going to be able to find her spot, send her to the moon. Okay. That is the myth of the G-spot. All right. All women have a working G-spot, again, because it's the female prostate. And the female prostate surrounds the urethral canal in both men and women. And in men, the prostate sits back by the bladder, where the urethral canal goes to the bladder. And in women, it sits at the outside opening of the body. So you literally can just simply 2 fingers, one on each labia, gently part the labia lips and look and find your urethra. It's push out with your pelvic floor muscles, right? Push, and you will see the famous ridges of the G spot, what I call the body of the G spot, kind of peek out.
Peek out from the opening of the vagina.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know. I was amazed that you could see it. Amazed.
I know. Yeah, everyone is.
Yeah, because the myth is like, it's like 2 finger knuckles inside and whatnot, but it's actually, I mean, I'm sure with everybody, it's there's a variation. We're all unique snowflakes, right? And
no, actually, the only variation, this is the analogy. Every person on the planet has eyebrows, eyes, nose, mouth, chin, and they're in the same place in our head.
Mm-hmm.
Same with the G spot. It's in the same place in all women. However, our faces look very different and our G spots can look very different. But basically, a head is a head and a G spot is a G spot, and they're in the same place. This is very helpful for people to know that.
And that's the great description. I've never actually heard that analogy with our facial parts, and that makes complete sense.
Mm-hmm.
And is it true though, in my understanding and experience, that it does feel different than the rest of the inside of the vagina, that there's a ridginess to the
Absolutely.
texture? Yeah. And
it's more than just feel different, it's also a structure. The G spot, because it surrounds the urethral canal, the urethra and the vagina, they share the same wall. So here's the urethra. There, urethra on top, vaginal opening right under it. They both have canals, urethra and vaginal canal. Mm-hmm. They share the same wall. This is from Dr. Zavicek, right? Mm-hmm. So, therefore, this prostate surrounds this canal. Mm-hmm. It hangs down through the roof of the vagina like a half moon shape. So you will literally feel like little canales, I call them. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like the gutters in a bowling alley. Okay, I call them canales. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that and it's half moon.
Yeah.
On the half moon, you will feel the ridges. It's not all perfect washboard ridges, like grandma's washboard, perfect. No. We have women, again, you have hills and valleys, smooth plains and caves and crevices.
Yes.
You have flowers of all sorts. Nonetheless, it's in the same spot and it works.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what would you say to some of our listeners who are hesitant and have a lot of fear about exploring their G-spot?
Sit on with the flashlight and take a look. That's all I have to say. You have to break through your wall. What's the definition of courage? Feeling the fear and doing it anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I know you've also traveled and lived in Europe, correct?
No, I travel in Europe for 3-4 months out of the year, so I've racked up a number of years.
Okay.
Haven't been fortunate enough to live there yet.
Okay. Well, gosh, 3-4 months a year. That's
it adds up to 4 years in Europe. Yeah. Over 14 years. Yeah.
And I'm curious because I have done some traveling, and I in my experience I've seen that there's less hangups in other places around the world, not all places, but particularly around Europe, than less hangups sexually in those regions than there are in America. Have you noticed that?
Mm-mm.
No.
It's not true from a sex education point.
Oh,
Europe is the same as any as any Western world country. They have zero sex education. What happens is in Germany, men and women go naked in the spas, and their spas are for health, and they have a woman in a white coat teaching you how to do things, but the men and women go into the saunas, go into the pools naked. I actually had a man come in and help me with my locker once, the combination. I was stark naked, so was he. I'm a sex educator, and even for me, that was like, whoa, okay, because that was new experience. And in Dutch, yeah, in Holland, I said to the ladies in a workshop, okay, let's explore now our G spot. And they're like, we're standing up. They're like stripped off. It stood there. I mean, like, so nudity, they're okay with nudity, but that doesn't mean that there's sex education. Same with the French. They might be really sexy kissing on the street, but hey, that's like the neck up. They also. So everybody in the Western world needs more adult sex education. And is now the time to say something about porn, or should we do it later?
do it now.
Porn is not sex ed.
Yeah.
Porn is Hollywood. Hello. Okay. Those ladies who ejaculate on porn, they are actresses. It is their job to know how to ejaculate and to do it fantastically, because this is a show.
Mhm.
Okay, it's not what people do in their bedroom, and a lot of women think they don't ejaculate because they don't arc out like a porn star. Most women just gush or flood ejaculate, or yes, they'll kind of arc out, but and you can arc out if you want. Porn actresses are young, they got strong muscles, they are 100% uninhibited with their body fluids, with their sexuality, with people looking at their vaginas, so they have no problem doing that. But far too many women are trying to live up to that standard, and far too many men are thinking their women should live up to that standard, and it's like, hey, this is Hollywood.
Yeah. Yeah, we've that's a conversation I love having, and I'm so glad that you brought that up as well, because porn is not sex education; it's entertainment.
That's correct.
It's entertainment, and that was something I was curious to get your take on, which is I noticed there was a significant shift in kind of like the cultural obsession. I'm going to call it an obsession with female ejaculation. And I feel like it started to happen like maybe 2006, 7, 8, around that time. Like prior to that, you didn't hear much about female ejaculation. But then all of a sudden, at least in many women's circles that I was involved in, everybody was like, and of course calling it squirting. Right. So
right, which is a porn term.
Exactly.
And you'll never ever hear me use the word squirt. I do not use it. Female ejaculation connotes the full fountainous beauty of freely ejaculating from the heart of your sexuality.
Yes.
Squirt, what is that? That is so adolescent porn.
Right. Yes, gag, exactly.
Gag me with a spoon.
But it seemed so I'm just wondering if this is my perspective, only my perspective, or if you notice around that time, 2006, 7, 8, somewhere around there, that there seemed to become a bigger cultural, like I said, obsession with women figuring out how to have their bodies ejaculate.
Yeah, there was. I'd like to think my book had something to do with it, but
yeah,
I think I just caught a wave. It was going to happen anyway. I don't know if I'd call it obsession. It became an obsession, for Well, I don't know. I have my opinions, but I don't know.
Well,
What do
yeah,
you think?
I mean, what's one of your opinions about it? I mean, I will say, I think, okay, there has been consistent growth in conversation around sex and sexuality and sex education. Like the veils have been lifting.
Mhm.
I really was fascinated by this fixation, almost, maybe not obsession, but a fixation on female ejaculation.
Where were you seeing this fixation? How,
Well,
and how was it expressed?
I do live in Los Angeles, so I know it is a
Okay.
more progressive city for sure. Um, and I happen to be involved in more progressive groups. So I get that, that I was
So it became trendy. It became, and porn stars became trendy too.
right.
About, I don't know, maybe only 6 years before then, porn stars started to date rock stars. And there was this sexuality did start to enter into the mainstream.
Mhm.
All the striptease dances, I was a stripper, erotic dancer for 4 years in San Francisco. And, we couldn't even find a G-string to buy. I mean, it was hard. And
Yeah.
then suddenly, they're everywhere and everybody's doing striptease moves. So female ejaculation, I'm sure, was just part of that.
One of the things that just
Mhm.
continued to get
Mhm.
on the public sphere and the public's consciousness.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I suppose, I don't know. I don't know if it was an obsession really.
Hmm.
Maybe in certain parts of the country, but that's why I was asking you how was it an obsession? What were you seeing?
Yeah, it seemed like it became something that more people were talking about and really wanting to discover and want to have an
Oh yeah.
experience,
Yeah, yeah.
and women just like, oh, I've those who were already on a path were like, in my experience, I was hearing many women say, I have to learn how to do this. And it was
Yeah,
like
for
learning to
sure.
play. It was honestly, it was almost like I need to learn how to play tennis, and then just like
Mhm.
practicing and
Mhm.
practicing and practicing. But
Okay. Yeah, that's very true. That happened.
yeah.
But yeah, yeah, as sex got more mainstream, I mean, this is the problem we have in high school now is, and from watching porn, is, the teenage girls, which I can't believe it. They've got a list of things, they have to learn to do that are very explicitly sexual. And so, I mean, it's like a train that went off the tracks. Just,
Say more about that. Because I don't have children, and so it's not something that's the what's going on in school necessarily that's I'm privy to.
I wasn't either. So it kind of passed me by for like 10 years. But just recently, I learned that um, that's what teenage girls feel under pressure to do when they go out with a guy, or to be able to do as part of their feminine, allure.
Hmm.
It's a big deal when you're a teenage woman, teenage girl, start looking good for the guys and looking at them and knowing what's going to attract them. But now it's gotten real hardcore sex, and this is like not okay. And the guys, it's kind of how they're being treated by the guys. The guys are watching porn and they're being really rude and rough and pretty much just, aggressive and shitty to these are teenage girls.
Yes.
Okay. Come on.
Yeah, I think
So that's like bad, bad.
yeah, it goes back to that porn is not sex education, it's entertainment. Yeah. And I love your book is so great. Female ejaculation in the G spot. It's just fabulous. And there's something that you write about the state of your relationship can affect your ability to ejaculate.
Mhm.
And I would love for you to say more about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I got divorced, I didn't ejaculate for 4 years. It's an emotional by nature, because we're dealing with the vagus nerve. I can get into that later, but that makes this G-spot orgasm emotional, unlike the clitoral orgasm, which is not emotional. So,
Well, yeah.
what I was.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that. That the G-spot orgasm is emotional by nature of it being connected to the vagus nerve.
Yes.
Okay. And so what makes it emotional?
The vagus nerve. You have the pudendal nerve that goes to the clitoris, penis, and then you have the vagus nerve that goes to the prostates. Specifically, it's the pelvic branch of the vagus nerve. Nonetheless, it's the vagus nerve. So that is the nerve. The vagus nerve is the nerve that counteracts the fight and flight. It's calming. It's the nerve that we access when we meditate. It's a nerve that helps us access those theta and gamma states that we can actually have healing in the body when you access those states. So, and that is also it can be an emotional reaction, and it is an emotional reaction. The G-spot orgasm, which is the prostate orgasm. Okay, so it's the vagus nerve, it's full bodied. That's what makes your legs shake, it just, whoa, comes up your whole body, blows out the top of your head, you can see stars. I mean, you did, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's powerful nerve, the most powerful nerve in the body. So that is a big orgasm.
And so, so then the state of your relationship, because it's interesting. I've found that you could be with a lover for the first time, and if it's very hot and just sensual and erotic, it could be really easy to ejaculate. However, you could be with someone for a long period of time and comfortable with them, and yet not ejaculate for maybe because you got in an argument or you're pissed off they didn't take out the trash or something like this.
Well, I mean, yeah, in general, yeah. I had an interviewer ask me, why did I just ejaculate? I'm 25 years old. I never did this before. I was with this man. And I'm like, well, what happened? And then we went through physical things and some emotional things. And it turns out he had just asked her to marry him.
Oh.
So I'm like, yeah, just, it's one of those totally uninhibited, happy times.
Yes.
You're going to ejaculate.
Yes.
The easiest. And if you're, not feeling so great about your situation with the person you're with or your environment, or just emotionally, you're just not there, it's harder to ejaculate.
Now, this is making me think that I believe there's a distinction. So please, clarify and elaborate on what I'm about to say, which is there is a distinction between an actual G-spot orgasm and ejaculation. Like, they are not one and the same.
No, they're not. Ejaculation is release of fluid. Orgasm is orgasm. It's full body, massive pleasure. Two different functions. They know about this in Eastern spiritual traditions. They know that it's two separate functions, which means for men also. So there are Eastern spiritual traditions like Taoism that teaches men how to separate their orgasm from ejaculation. And when men do that, they can stay hard longer. They can have multiple orgasms stream throughout their body, but they don't ejaculate.
Yeah, it's a very powerful experience, I think, for both men and women.
Mhm.
which there's another piece in your book that fascinated me, and I kind of, I guess, knew this on some level, and yet I loved that you wrote about it, and saying don't blow out the prostate. um
Uh-huh.
yeah, and so I would love for you to talk about that, seeing as you were saying, hey, there's two different functions here. But it's almost like there's this again, I think it's at least in my experience, I can just talk about my experience, and listeners, you can obviously what your own experience is. But I know in the beginning it can also be kind of fun when you learn that, wow, my body can do this, and so therefore maybe you want to try to do it often. One thing I did notice, and I think this is what your point is when you talk about don't blow out the prostate, there's an actual, this release, this ejaculate, and it's somewhat exhausting.
it's it's more than that. It's deeply satiating for like 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that vagus nerve. It's just, it builds up volcanically, and then you're like, oh wow, that was the greatest release ever. I'm satisfied.
Yes.
Okay. Now
Yes.
that's not always the reaction, but I mean that's the nature of it, basically.
And so what is the caution about not, quote, blowing out the prostate?
Um, yeah, I mean, well, let's talk LA, because it's mostly this stuff is coming out of California, to be honest about it. Yeah, I mean, it's like the female prostate is not a shiny new car and a new little toy that you can just, make it ejaculate all night long. And yeah, I don't see that so much anymore. Maybe I'm just not attracting that, or maybe things have shifted a little bit. But there were women who, they are deeply depleted, because they're just, it's like, would you please tell them to stop? I mean, this is an organ of the body. So, I mean, you don't want to overdo it like that. Just because it can ejaculate all night long doesn't mean that you want to overextend it. I mean, just because you can run, you know, 18 miles if you want to. I mean, you can, have a heart attack too if you go too far too fast.
Mm-hmm.
So, point is, we're dealing with the part of the body, and to just have awareness around that. Yeah, it's exciting, but stay within reasonable boundaries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what I'm hearing through this is also just have like reverence, to love your body,
Well,
have
this
respect for your
is
body.
this is where we're headed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And to
Mm-hmm.
have reverence and respect for your lovers' bodies.
Right. So we're taking sex beyond pleasure now. We're going into the self growth and self healing with it,
Mm-hmm.
and self care, and that always has an element of worship to it, devotion, not only to oneself but to the beautiful forces that surround us, whether they're nature or they're beautiful vibrational energies that we can uplift ourselves with. This is where we're headed with sexuality, definitely.
It's interesting because you
So,
make me think of like where some of it, more in Eastern cultures, right, where it also started.
sacred sex, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, it's true. Hmm.
Yeah.
Because their creation myths, are about male and female getting together to create the earth.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have that in Western culture. The woman was removed. from Christianity. So we have to look outside of our own Western traditional religious culture, which is Christianity, for healthy images of the sacredness of sexuality. Christianity in the Western world has only just debased it.
Yes.
And when you debase what is in fact our very life force, this is our force of life is our sexual energy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we don't know that even. So we're just in kindergarten, but finally that door is creaking open, and people are discovering this beautiful world, which is aided by the vagus nerve.
Mm. So
when we just focus on the clitoris penis, which the characteristics of that orgasm, of that nerve, that pudendal nerve, is fast stimulation, whether it's a vibrator or guys on the, rapid, shallow breathing, holding at the end, clenching, yeah, it's a nice orgasm. But the vagus nerve is the opposite orgasm. The vagus nerve, you have to relax and breathe. So that's really new for a lot of people. But I'll tell you, when women really realize that they can relax and breathe and have slow and steady stimulation, slow and steady, it can go a little faster, but what's happening here is not the mechanical stimulation. It's the man has his consciousness in his penis, and he knows where the G-spot is. She knows where her G-spot is, prostate, and can feel that. And so everybody's consciousness is like, there. It's just, you get aroused like that. You see,
it is interesting. The slower that one goes, the more potent it can be.
It's because it's a prostate here in women, and it's because slow and steady is how you activate its deepest physical sensation of pleasure, and also its deepest emotional, outpourings, which can also be spiritual outpourings. How high can you get it? You got yours really high, vibrationally. And so the way to do that is slow and steady, no ramming. Okay, this is a prostate here, just inside the vagina.
Right.
This is an organ of the body. And so, organ of the body. And so we don't want to pound away at it. We didn't know there was a prostate there. Now that you know, slow and steady, slow and steady. That's how you create this beautiful pleasure. And what this does is it allows a woman to relax. And every woman on the planet gets that when I say it, because women are not relaxing when it's fast. We're getting tense, and we need more and more stimulation, because the nature of it is to relax. And so the more you relax, the more you feel. You're feeling the vagus nerve. You're feeling what the vagus nerve gives you via the prostate. So if you're rubbing on your clit, you're not going to feel the pudendal nerve kind of overrides the vagus nerve. You can kind of combine the two. It's a bit of a esoteric, but you can do that. And you can just have the prostate nerve orgasm, the G-spot, or you can just have the clitoral, which is a pudendal nerve orgasm.
And
I'm kind of jumping around a little bit with things. I
That's
do it more methodically in my
well, we're just
hour and a half PowerPoint, but
yeah, we're just having a great conversation about this. That's the whole fun of it, jumping around.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting too, because that slowing down, you're saying, that feeling and that relaxing, it seems, also G-spot orgasms, as we've said, can be so much more emotional, which is, it's very common that, women can cry, right?
Yes.
When you have these deeper orgasms, because again,
Yes,
there's
absolutely.
the deeper emotional release.
And women relate to this. They love that.
Mm.
That vagus nerve starts in the brain, it goes through the throat and the prostate are very connected. And so, yes, you have to speak your pleasure. Open up your throat, your fifth chakra, as they say. And yes, that feels so great.
Yeah.
And the Wild Woman,
Mm.
that great book by Clarissa Pinkola Estes, Women Who Run with the Wolves. She's a
Yes.
Jungian analyst. They love telling stories. She's a wonderful storyteller. Women Who Run with the Wolves. This is not your little Victorian orgasm.
Oh, that's great. I love that. We need to make a t-shirt.
It's like, wow. And so,
we need t-shirts or something. This is not your Victorian orgasm.
No, that's right. That would be a great t-shirt.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that. We'll have to add that somewhere. Someone needs to make that. Oh my gosh. Well, the thing that I do, there's so much I want to talk to you about.
It's a large, fascinating subject. It really is. It's not a simple little thing.
No, which is also why I encourage everybody to get Deborah's book, because there's just such a deep dive in there. So, and one of the things that you talk about, which I mention often in my, in a lot of my presentations, only because I'm committed to people connecting to their sexual energy, which I use the word mojo. It's the same thing: mojo, chi, prana, life force, sexual energy. It's all the same thing.
Yes, it is.
And one of the things that really gets in the way that I've noticed is the tension and the clamping down of the pelvic muscles.
Yeah.
Right. And I just say, think about how often you're squeezing your ass most of the day. Do you know what I mean? And you do write about this in the book, about that chronic tension. It is problematic to experience your G-spot and or ejaculation. And I'd love for you to say more about that, because I think that, by the way, is just mind-blowing for many listeners right now.
What's mind-blowing?
Well, the part that there's chronic tension that they're not even aware of, and that it's problematic for experiencing pleasure through your G-spot and or ejaculation.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because as Whipple and Perry, the authors of the book The G-spot, their biggest discoveries, they had two huge discoveries in 1982. One is the two nerve theory, the pudendal nerve and the vagus nerve, right? Just what we've been talking about comes from them. They're sexologists and scientists, PhD. They're like 80 years old now. They're still alive. The other thing they discovered was the contractions. When you have a clitoral penis orgasm, 1/3 of the pelvic floor muscles contract. Your vaginal muscles, pelvic floor muscles, same thing. Whereas when you have a G-spot orgasm, a prostate orgasm, the vagus nerve contracts 2/3 of your pelvic floor muscles. So yeah, that's what gives us orgasm. So if they're tense, or do you see when something's tense, it doesn't move? This has to move. That has flexibility as well as strength.
Sounds like yoga,
Things.
flexibility and strength to me.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the pelvic floor is another big hour and a half story. And it's now finally coming, having its own day. It's exploding out there, just like the female ejaculation did about 15 years ago. So I'm not going to go into it too much. But you had a question about it that I wanted to answer. I forgot.
Yeah, it was just like the fact that there's this chronic tension that most people
Oh,
are
right.
experiencing.
Yeah, that has to do with female ejaculation, that they think it's pee. Because, ladies, I'm here to ask you, the last thing we're ever going to do is pee when we're having sex. Am I right? That will not happen. No. So if we think female ejaculation is pee, we clamp down with it on with our pelvic floor muscles. So if we're having sex for 10, 20, 30 years, you better believe those muscles are getting tense. They are not going to let go of that ejaculate during orgasm, during sex.
I see. Okay. And so, and in order to experience the ejaculation, there needs to be relaxation within those pelvic muscles.
Technically, yeah, but women dance backwards in high heels, so they still manage to have orgasms and ejaculation, even though maybe a third of their pelvic floor muscles aren't really, on high operative mode.
Okay.
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 But, because how women are, I have to be careful. I'm very careful with what I say to women because, they're the first thing I tell women is nothing is wrong with your G-spot. Nothing is wrong with your vulva.
Right.
So they all get in a circle, to look at their G-spots, and every one of them will raise their hand and want me to look, to make sure nothing's wrong. Okay. Nothing's wrong with your, ladies, I'm here to tell you, nothing is wrong with your vulva, your lovely vulva, or your G-spot,
And what do some women think is wrong? That it either looks wrong or I'm unclear on what women would think would be wrong. I understand that women have had a lot of concern about the look of the vulva, labia being different sizes and shapes and so on and so forth. But what do women think could be wrong with their G-spot?
See, it's undefined. It's part of that fear. It's part of that, diminishment of the female experience. It's women are very critical of their self, their looks, their bodies, what they got on. They compare themselves with other women. So it stems from those things.
I see. I see.
Mm-hmm.
What do you wish that all women could know about themselves at this point? You've been working with
Oh,
women for decades. But what's just something that you wish all women would know?
that they're capable of a blowout orgasm that will just rain joy and creativity into your life, which is empowerment, which is empowering. Of course it is. It's a lot of things. Every woman's capable of this. Every woman, physically and emotionally capable. This is our nature as women. This is who we are as women. This is comes from our life force. Okay, this is our life force. They told us our life force, number one, doesn't exist. What's a life force? What's energy? Sexuality is horrible. If you let that out of the box, you're going to go down the wrong road to drugs and then death. Really, really bad boogeymans have been out there. And so, my job, my mission, and for all of us need to rip the gunk off this sexuality because there are jewels. There are jewels here. Beautiful, beautiful jewels.
Yes. Yes,
So
that's great.
that's what I want them to know.
I love that. Fantastic. And it's fair to say, and I think factual to say, that, of course, ladies, you can do this with or without a partner.
Yeah, it's always good to make a part of your self-care routine. So I teach a technique that is just getting to know your lovely vagina, specifically the prostate. And it's very meditative. It's very slow. And it's not about having an orgasm or pleasure. It's about getting to know down there in the basement, as the English say, down there in the basement.
Yeah.
Okay, well, down there, as I show in my PowerPoint, is a universe which Hildegard of Bingen, the Christian abbess of the year 1080, she wrote political essays. She did Gregorian chant. Her herbs are well known in Germany today. She's an herbalist, a doctor back then.
Who is this?
Hildegard of Bingen, B-I-N-G. It's a town on the Rhine River in Germany. This monastery is still there.
Beautiful.
Okay, one day she downloaded, she also drew a beautiful picture of the vulva. And it is like the universe. And so I tell the ladies, there is a universe in your lovely vagina. And that is the shard. And I mean the archaeological shard, piece of pottery that's left from this annihilation that the Western world went through due to Christianity's hatred of the erotic body, both male and female, specifically female. Okay, that comes from a Christian abbess. She's here to tell us, and it's surrounded by lotus petals, which is in Eastern religion the symbol of purity.
Yes.
So the vulva is pure, it's lovely, it's divine. And this is what's going on right now. This is the feminine is rising. Okay. And she is beautiful and she's erotic. Her heart and soul and spirit is erotic.
Amen to that. Well, Deborah, I could talk to you for a long, long time. We might need to do a part 2 at some point.
We might. This flew by.
Yeah, I know. It really does. And there are 2 signature questions of the podcast I'd love to ask you. Super simple. And it's, of all the things, because this podcast is dedicated to elevating the conversation around spirituality and sex. And so of all the things that can tune you into spirit or whatever you relate to as spirit, what's one thing that will be a consistent, like, all right, that will always tune you in?
Oh, that's just meditation. I mean, right now that's just there because it's been 25 years since I started meditation. I'm older. And I started in my 40s. So over time, you get more and more plugged in and it becomes easier to access and it becomes there.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And then of all the things, because again, there are many answers to this, what's one thing that will always be a turn on for you?
The penis.
Yeah.
We love the penis.
Fantastic.
The penis got a little second rate there for a while with all the sex toy things. It's like, no, this is the Renaissance. The G-spot is the Renaissance for the penis. Guys, I have one last thing to say. Forget the fingers, okay? Use your penis. right here, slow and steady. And if your mind is with her and your own emotions are there, there's nothing better.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Nothing better.
Oh my goodness, Deborah. I am so grateful for you and really being on trailblazing this path, and your commitment over the years to helping so many women and of course men to experience freedom in their sexuality, which helps them to feel free in who they are and to be someone who is consistently cultivating and midwifing pleasure on the planet. So thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right, everybody. This has been another phenomenal conversation here on The Real Undressed. And you know it, we will see you on the next one. So bye for now.